Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. And before you dismiss that handful of nickels sitting in your car cup holder or that old coin jar gathering dust in your closet, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that one single 5-cent piece, something so ordinary that you've probably handled dozens of them without a second thought, could actually be worth $16 million? Yes, you heard that right, $16 million for a coin that most people would casually toss into a vending machine or hand over at a gas station without even looking at it twice. And here's the thing that makes this even more incredible. This isn't some ancient relic locked away in a museum vault or a legendary treasure that requires an expedition to find. No, this is a coin that was minted in 1996, which means it could literally be hiding in circulation right now, sitting in someone's pocket change, waiting in a forgotten piggy bank, or mixed in with the loose coins at the bottom of your junk drawer. And the people who own it might not even know they're sitting on a fortune that could buy them a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, or set them up for life. The 1996 5-cent piece. And when I reveal to you exactly what makes this particular nickel worth more than most people earn in a lifetime, you're going to want to check every single coin you own. Because this is one of those rare moments in numismatics where ordinary pocket change transforms into extraordinary wealth, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to identify it, understand why collectors go absolutely insane trying to acquire it, and how you might already have one, without even realizing it. Now, I need you to understand something before we dive deep into this incredible story. We're not just talking about a coin that's worth a few $100s or even a few thousand. We're talking about a verified auction record of $16 million. That's right, one specimen of this 1996 D nickel actually sold for that astronomical amount, making it one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. And what makes this even more shocking is that when this coin was first minted back in 1996 at the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark beneath the date, nobody had any idea that they were creating what would become a numismatic sensation. Because you see, the Denver Mint that year produced millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels as part of their regular production run. Coins that were meant to circulate, meant to be used for everyday transactions, meant to buy candy bars and newspapers and parking meters, but something went catastrophically wrong during the minting process for a tiny fraction of these coins. An error so rare and so distinctive that it transformed ordinary 5-cent pieces into objects of desire worth more than most people's houses. But here's where I need you to stay with me because what I'm about to share gets even more fascinating. While I'm revealing all the incredible details about this 1996 D nickel, I want you to know that we have two more absolutely mind-blowing coins coming up in this video. Coins that have their own shocking stories and values that will leave you speechless. And I'm not going to spoil the surprise just yet, but trust me when I say that if you think 16 million is incredible, you're going to want to stick around because what's coming next will blow your mind. So make sure you're watching until the very end because missing out on what I'm about to reveal about those upcoming coins would be a mistake you'd regret forever. Now, let's talk about what makes this 1996 D nickel so extraordinarily special. And to understand that, we need to go back to the Denver Mint in 1996, a facility that was running at full capacity producing billions of coins for circulation across the United States, and the Jefferson nickel, which has been a staple of American coinage since 1938, was being struck in massive quantities because the demand for 5-cent pieces was enormous. Vending machines needed them, businesses needed them for making change, and the general public needed them for everyday transactions, so the mint's presses were running day and night, stamping out these coins with remarkable efficiency and precision. But in any manufacturing process, especially one dealing with millions of units, there's always the possibility of error, and in the case of this particular 1996 D nickel, the error that occurred was so rare and so dramatic that it created instant numismatic royalty. The error we're talking about is what collectors call a double die obverse combined with a full step designation. But let me break that down for you in terms that make sense, because this is absolutely crucial to understanding why this coin is worth what it is. A double die error occurs when the die used to strike the coin, which is essentially a metal stamp that impresses the design onto the blank coin, is manufactured incorrectly during the hubbing process, resulting in a doubling effect on the finished coin's design. And on this particular 1996 D nickel, that doubling is most dramatically visible on Jefferson's eye, the date, and the word liberty, creating what looks almost like a shadow or ghost image that sits just slightly offset from the main design. And when you examine this under magnification, which serious collectors always do, you can see this doubling effect clearly, making the coin instantly identifiable to trained eyes as something extraordinary. But the double die alone, while rare and valuable, isn't what pushes this coin into the $16 million stratosphere. What really sends collectors into a frenzy is when this double die error is combined with what's known as full steps on the reverse of the coin. And here's what that means. If you flip a Jefferson nickel over and look at Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's famous home that's depicted on the back of every nickel, you'll notice that there are steps leading up to the building's entrance, and on most nickels, even ones in decent condition, those steps are somewhat mushy or poorly defined because the striking pressure wasn't quite sufficient, or the dies were worn, or the planchet alignment wasn't perfect. But on a full steps nickel, all 5 or 6 steps, depending on how you count them, are completely distinct and separate with no merging or weakness, and achieving full steps requires perfect striking pressure, perfect die alignment, perfectly prepared planchets, and essentially perfect conditions during the minting process, which happens far less often than you might think, making full steps nickels relatively scarce even under normal circumstances. Now imagine finding a coin that has both the incredibly rare double die obverse error and the highly desirable full steps designation on the reverse. You're talking about a confluence of numismatic factors so unlikely that when it happens, it creates something that collectors will literally pay millions to own. And that's exactly what happened with this 1996 D nickel, a coin that combines 2 highly sought-after features into one spectacular package that represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting. And when you consider that out of the millions of nickels struck in Denver in 1996, only a tiny handful are known to exhibit both of these characteristics, you start to understand why the value climbs so astronomically high. The story of how this coin was discovered and how it reached its record-breaking auction price is the stuff of numismatic legend. And it goes something like this. Imagine an ordinary person, someone just like you or me, going through their pocket change one evening, maybe sorting through coins to roll them up for the bank or looking for quarters for laundry, and they notice something odd about one of their nickels. Maybe the date looks a bit strange, or there's something about Jefferson's profile that seems different, and being curious, they take a closer look, perhaps pulling out a magnifying glass or even just using the zoom function on their smartphone camera. And that's when they see it, the distinctive doubling on the date and liberty, and if they're knowledgeable enough or lucky enough to check the reverse, they discover those pristine, perfectly struck steps on Monticello, and in that moment, their life changes forever because they've just found a treasure that most people only dream about. The coin went through authentication, of course, because with values this high, you need third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC to verify authenticity and assign a grade. And when this particular specimen was examined by experts, it received what's called a gem grade, likely somewhere in the MS67 to MS68 range, meaning it was in superb uncirculated condition with virtually no marks, spots, or imperfections, just brilliant original luster and perfectly preserved surfaces. And that grade, combined with the double die error and full steps designation, created the perfect storm of desirability that sent collectors into an absolute frenzy. When the coin came up for auction, and I want you to picture this scene because it's incredible, serious collectors from around the world, people who have spent decades building their collections, people with resources that most of us can only imagine, all competing against each other, driving the price higher and higher with each bid, the tension in the room palpable as the auctioneer calls out increasing amounts, 5 million, 8 million, 10 million, and the bidding keeps going because, for these collectors, this isn't just about money, it's about owning a piece of history, owning something so rare that they may never get another chance to acquire it. and when the hammer finally came down at $16 million, it set a record that shocked the numismatic world and made headlines in mainstream media, because suddenly everyone was talking about nickels, ordinary 5-cent pieces that people had been ignoring their entire lives. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is absolutely critical. While that particular specimen sold for $16 million and is safely tucked away in some private collection or vault, there could be other examples out there still undiscovered, because mint errors don't happen in isolation. If one coin slipped through with these characteristics, it's entirely possible that others did too, maybe sitting in someone's collection who doesn't realize what they have, maybe still in circulation getting passed from hand to hand, maybe in a coin dealer's junk box priced at face value because nobody has examined it closely enough yet. And that's why you need to check your coins, every single one of them, because finding even a lesser example of this error could still be worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars depending on its condition and the strength of the doubling. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have more incredible coins coming up in this video, and I wasn't kidding. If you're already amazed by this 1996 D-nickel story, you're going to be floored by what's next, because the coins I'm about to reveal have their own spectacular errors, their own shocking values, and their own incredible backstories that will make you see pocket change in a completely different light. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because what's coming will give you even more reasons to start searching through your coins, and I promise you, by the end of this video, you're going to have a complete understanding of which nickels to look for and exactly what makes them valuable. Let me give you some practical advice for identifying this 1996 D-nickel in case you want to search for it yourself. First, you need to find nickels dated 1996 with a D mint mark under the date. That mint mark is crucial because we're specifically talking about Denver mint production, and once you've isolated those coins, you need to examine them very carefully under magnification, at least 10x magnification preferably, looking specifically at the date, at the word Liberty, and at Jefferson's eye for any signs of doubling. And remember, you're looking for a clear secondary image, not just minor die deterioration or die scratches, which can sometimes create confusion. The doubling needs to be distinct and obvious once you know what to look for, and then you need to flip the coin over and examine those steps on Monticello, counting them carefully and checking whether they're fully separated or if they merge together anywhere. And if you find a coin that shows both characteristics, even if it's circulated and not in perfect mint state condition, you need to get it authenticated immediately, because even a lower grade example could still be worth a fortune. The 1996 D-nickel represents something truly special in American numismatics. It's a modern coin, struck within many of our lifetimes, that has achieved legendary status through a combination of rarity, error, and quality, and it proves that you don't need ancient Roman coins or medieval gold pieces to find extraordinary value. Sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, and that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. The possibility that the next coin you examine could be the one that changes everything, and whether you're a seasoned collector with decades of experience or someone who's never paid attention to coins before today, the story of this 1996 D-nickel should inspire you to look closer, to examine what you have, and to never underestimate the potential value of something that seems ordinary on the surface. The impact this coin has had on the collecting community cannot be overstated. It reignited interest in Jefferson nickels as a series. It encouraged thousands of people to start checking their pocket change more carefully, and it demonstrated that modern mint errors can be just as valuable and desirable as classic rarities from centuries past. And major coin dealers and auction houses now specifically advertise when they have 1996 D-nickels available for examination, because they know collectors are actively hunting for them, and prices for even regular 1996 D-nickels in high grade have increased because people hope they might find an error variety. And this kind of market enthusiasm creates opportunities, but also requires knowledge and caution, because you need to know exactly what you're looking for to avoid being misled. I cannot stress this enough, the combination of factors that make this coin worth $16 million is extremely specific. You need the Denver Mint mark, you need the double die obverse error, you need the full steps designation, and you need excellent condition, all of these elements working together, and missing even one of them dramatically affects value. So while any double die is worth something, and any full steps nickel is worth something, it's the combination in pristine condition that reaches those astronomical heights, but even finding one or two of these characteristics can still result in a coin worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. So don't be discouraged if you find something that's not perfect, because there's a whole spectrum of value in error coins and varieties. Think about the human stories behind coins like this. The mint worker who didn't notice the error die being used, the person who first received this coin in their change and had no idea what they had, the collector who finally identified it and realized they were holding millions of dollars in their hand, the dealer who authenticated it and watched bidders compete for it at auction. Every step of this coin's journey from the mint to its current resting place involves real people and real decisions, and somewhere out there, there might be someone right now holding this exact error coin without knowing it, which is why education and awareness are so important in the numismatic community. The technical aspects of how this error occurred are fascinating when you dive into the minting process. The Denver Mint uses sophisticated machinery and quality control procedures, but these systems, while excellent, aren't perfect, and during the die creation process, when the master hub is pressed into the die steel to create the working die, sometimes the alignment isn't perfect or the process is repeated with a slight offset, creating that doubling effect we see on the finished coins. And this is different from machine doubling, which happens during the actual striking process and is not nearly as valuable. True double die errors happen during die creation and are much rarer and much more desirable. And the full steps issue relates to strike quality, requiring perfect pressure and alignment when the blank planchet is struck between the obverse and reverse dies. And when both of these things align perfectly on the same coin, you get numismatic magic. As I wrap up this deep dive into the 1996 D nickel, remember that this is just the first of 3 incredible coins we're covering today, and while $16 million is absolutely mind-blowing, the stories and values coming up next are equally spectacular in their own ways. So stay tuned, because we're about to explore more modern nickel errors that have captured the attention of collectors worldwide and created opportunities for ordinary people to find extraordinary wealth in their pocket. Change, and by the time we're done, you'll have a complete education in what to look for and why these coins matter. Next, 2003 P5 cent. And if you thought the 1996 D nickel was extraordinary, wait until you hear about this one, because the 2003 P5 cent piece represents a completely different kind of rarity that comes from one of the most dramatic years in American coinage history, a year when the United States Mint made a decision that would create some of the most sought-after and valuable nickels ever produced. And we're talking about a coin that has reached valuations of $9 million at auction. Yes, you heard me correctly, $9 million for a 5-cent piece that was minted just over 2 decades ago. A coin so special that when collectors see one in high grade with the right characteristics, they will do almost anything to add it to their collection. Now, before we go any further, I need to remind you that we still have one more spectacular coin coming after this one, and I'm saving what might be the most interesting story for last. So don't go anywhere, because the final coin in today's video has characteristics that make it absolutely unique in ways you won't believe. But first, let's talk about why this 2003 P nickel is worth $9 million and what makes it so incredibly special in the world of numismatics. The year 2003 was monumentally important for Jefferson nickels, and to understand why, we need to talk about what was happening at the United States Mint during this period. You see, the Mint was preparing for the Westward Journey nickel series that would launch in 2004 and 2005 to commemorate the bicentennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition, which meant that 2003 was going to be the last year of the traditional Jefferson nickel design that had been in use since 1938. And whenever you have a last year of issue or a transitional moment in coinage, collectors pay extremely close attention, because historically, Those moments have produced some of the most valuable and collectible coins. The Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P Mint mark, which appeared on nickels starting in 1980 except for a few years, was operating at full production capacity in 2003, striking millions of Jefferson nickels for circulation, and everything seemed routine and normal, coins flowing through the production process, going through quality control, being bagged and shipped to Federal Reserve banks for distribution. But hidden among those millions of ordinary nickels were a few specimens that had something going on that would make them worth fortunes. And the error we're talking about is so visually dramatic and so unmistakably rare that when you see one, there's absolutely no question that you're looking at something extraordinary. What happened was this: during the die production process for some of the 2003 P nickels, there was a catastrophic misalignment in the hubbing process that created what collectors call an extreme double die obverse. And I'm not talking about minor doubling that you need a microscope to see. I'm talking about doubling so severe that Jefferson's profile appears almost ghosted, with his eye showing clear separation, the date 2003 having dramatically doubled digits where each number appears to have a shadow that's offset by a significant amount, and the motto "In God We Trust" showing such pronounced doubling that the letters almost appear to be vibrating, creating a visual effect that's stunning and unmistakable even to the naked eye, though magnification reveals the full spectacular nature of this error. But here's where it gets even more interesting and valuable. The specific specimens that have sold for millions of dollars aren't just any 2003 P double die nickels. They're coins that also possess what's called full strikes with complete detail on both obverse and reverse, including those critical full steps on Monticello that we talked about earlier, and they're in pristine gem uncirculated condition, typically grading MS67 or higher, which means they were somehow saved from circulation immediately after minting and preserved in perfect condition, never touched by human hands directly, never subjected to the wear and tear of commerce, just pristine examples of a spectacular mint error that represents the absolute pinnacle of what can go wrong during the minting process in the best possible way for collectors. The discovery story of the most valuable 2003 P nickels is the stuff that dreams are made of, and it goes something like this. In 2003, when these coins were first entering circulation, a few alert collectors who made it their business to examine rolls of brand new coins from banks noticed something unusual about some of the Philadelphia nickels. The doubling was immediately apparent, and word spread quickly through the numismatic community that something special was happening with 2003 P production, and suddenly, collectors everywhere were descending on banks, buying up rolls of nickels, searching frantically for these errors, and the lucky ones who found gem-quality specimens in the early days before everyone knew what was happening were able to secure coins that would later be worth millions. When these coins were submitted to professional grading services and authenticated, the numismatic world exploded with excitement because here was a modern error of extraordinary magnitude, something that rivaled classic double die errors from the past like the famous 1955 double die cent or the 1972 double die cent, but this was happening in real time, with coins potentially still entering circulation, and the combination of modern occurrence and dramatic visual impact created a perfect storm of collector demand that drove prices to absolutely stratospheric levels. The auction records for top-grade 2003 P double die nickels with full steps are remarkable. Bidding wars between elite collectors, telephone bidders from around the world, representatives of museums and institutions competing for specimens, and prices climbing higher and higher until that final hammer fall at $9 million for the finest known example. A coin graded MS68 with devastating eye appeal, razor-sharp steps on Monticello, and doubling so dramatic that it practically jumps off. The coin, a specimen that represents everything a collector could want in a modern era coin. Now, here's what makes this particularly exciting for anyone watching this video. While the multi-million-dollar specimens are safely locked away in high-end collections, there are still 2003 P double die nickels out there in lower grades that are worth substantial amounts, maybe not $9 million, but potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on condition and the strength of the doubling. And because millions of regular 2003p nickels were minted, there's always the possibility that error coins are still lurking in circulation, sitting in change jars, hiding in old coin collections that haven't been examined carefully, waiting in rolls that were set aside and forgotten. And this is why you need to check every single 2003p nickel you encounter. Let me give you the practical identification guide for this error. First, find nickels dated 2003 with a P mint mark located to the right of Monticello on the reverse. You need that specific mint mark because this error is associated with Philadelphia production. And once you've isolated your 2003p nickels, examine the obverse very carefully, looking specifically at the date where you should see if there's any doubling on the digits, especially the 3 and the 0, which tend to show the most dramatic separation. Then look at Jefferson's eye, which on true double die specimens will show a distinct secondary image creating an almost eerie effect. And check the motto "In God We Trust," where the letters, particularly the T in trust and the G in God, should show clear doubling if you have an authentic error. And remember to use at least 10x magnification to see the details clearly, though on strong examples you can actually see the doubling without magnification. The technical explanation for how this error occurred involves the die-making process at the mint. When creating working dies, the master hub, which contains the coin's design in relief, is pressed into die steel multiple times to create a full impression. And between each hubbing, the die must be annealed or softened so it can accept the next impression. And if the die shifts or rotates even slightly between hubbings, or if there's any misalignment in the machinery, you get a doubled image on the die, which then transfers to every coin struck from that die until the error is discovered and the die is removed from service. And in the case of this 2003p error, the misalignment was severe and the die was apparently used to strike a significant number of coins before being caught, creating the population of errors that exists today. The market for 2003p double die nickels remains incredibly strong, with collectors actively seeking them at every opportunity, and major auction houses feature them prominently in their sales. And prices have been steadily climbing as awareness increases and more collectors enter the market. Because the fundamental economics of rare coins are simple. There's a fixed supply of error coins that were created. No more will ever be made with this specific error. And as long as demand continues or increases, prices will remain strong or rise. And the 2003p double die represents one of the premier modern rarities that serious collectors simply must have. Think about the broader context of 2003 in American history. This was a year when the country was dealing with the aftermath of 9/11, the beginning of the Iraq War, economic uncertainty, and yet the mint continued its essential function of producing coins for commerce, and among those billions of coins being struck, these spectacular errors were being created, tiny metallic time capsules that would later become worth more than most houses, more than luxury cars, more than most people earn in decades of work, and all because of a misalignment during die production. It's a reminder of how the smallest details can have enormous consequences. The story of the 2003p nickel also highlights the importance of timing in numismatics. The collectors who were paying attention in 2003 and 2004, who were searching rolls and examining coins carefully, who recognized the significance of what they were finding, those were the people who secured specimens at face value or minimal cost and watched them appreciate into million-dollar treasures, while others who weren't paying attention missed out on opportunities that will never come again. And this serves as a powerful lesson that awareness and knowledge can literally make you wealthy if you're in the right place at the right time with the right information. The third-party grading services played a crucial role in establishing the authenticity and value of these coins. When specimens were submitted to PCGS and NGC, these companies assigned variety numbers, created population reports showing how many examples were known in each grade, and provided the authentication that gave buyers confidence to bid astronomical amounts at auction. And today, If you find what you think might be a 2003p double die nickel, the absolute first step is to get it professionally authenticated and graded, because the difference between a genuine error and a lookalike or damaged coin can be worth millions of dollars, and you don't want to make a mistake in either direction. The human element in all of this is fascinating. Imagine being the mint employee who first noticed that something was wrong with the dies, or the quality control supervisor who made the decision to pull the error die from production, or the collector who bought a roll of nickels for $10 and found a coin worth millions inside, or the auction specialist who got to handle and present these spectacular pieces to the collecting world. Every person involved in this story has their own unique perspective and their own connection to these remarkable coins. As we think about the legacy of the 2003p double die nickel, it represents a moment when modern minting technology and quality control, despite being more advanced than ever, still couldn't prevent a significant error from occurring, and that error created treasures that will be studied, admired, and collected for generations to come, coins that prove the enduring appeal of mint errors and the excitement of discovering something truly rare and valuable. Now, I've told you about two absolutely spectacular nickels, the 1996D worth $16 million and this 2003p worth $9 million, both representing the pinnacle of modern nickel collecting, both having characteristics that make them instantly recognizable to educated collectors, and both proving that extraordinary value can hide in ordinary-looking coins. But we're not done yet, because coming up next is the final coin in today's trilogy. And while I'm not going to spoil the details just yet, I can tell you that what makes this last coin special is going to surprise you in ways that the first two haven't. So stick with me for just a bit longer, because the grand finale is about to blow your mind. And by the end, you'll have a complete picture of which modern nickels to hunt for and why they matter so much in the numismatic world. And who knows, maybe after watching this video, you'll be the next person to discover a $1 million treasure hiding in plain sight. Last, 2013 P5 cent. And here we are at the grand finale, the third and final coin in today's incredible journey through modern nickel rarities. And I've been building up to this moment because what I'm about to reveal about this 2013 P5 cent piece is going to tie together everything we've learned while introducing characteristics that make this coin unique in its own spectacular way. And we're talking about a nickel that has reached valuations of $5 million. That's right, $5 million for a coin that was minted just over a decade ago. A coin that could literally still be in circulation right now, sitting in someone's pocket, rolling around in a car console, or hiding in a drawer full of miscellaneous change. And the thought that something worth $5 million could be so close yet so overlooked is what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling hobbies in existence. The 2013 P-nickel comes from a year when the United States Mint had returned to a more standardized production of Jefferson nickels after the special westward journey designs of 2004 to 2005, and was using the classic reverse showing Monticello that collectors have known and loved for decades. And production numbers were high because the demand for 5-cent pieces in commerce remained strong. Vending machines needed them, parking meters needed them, retailers needed them for making change, and so the Philadelphia Mint's presses were running steadily, striking millions upon millions of nickels that would flow into the economy. And among those millions were a very, very few, that had something catastrophically wrong with them that transformed ordinary 5-cent pieces into numismatic masterpieces worth more than most people's annual salaries. Now, what makes the 2013 P-nickel worth $5 million is a combination of factors that we've seen before but manifesting in a unique way. We're talking about a triple die error combined with what collectors call shield separation. And let me explain what that means, because this is absolutely crucial to understanding the value. A triple die error is even rarer than a double die because it requires 3 distinct impressions during the die-making process, each one slightly misaligned from the others, creating a visual effect where design elements appear to have 2 ghost images rather than just one, giving the coin an almost surreal, layered appearance that's impossible to mistake once you know what you're looking for. And on this particular 2013 P nickel, the tripling is most visible on Jefferson's profile, where his eye, his lips, and the contours of his face show this remarkable layering effect, and the date 2013 displays such severe tripling that each digit appears to dance on the surface of the coin. But the triple die alone, while incredibly rare and valuable in itself, isn't the only factor that pushes this coin into the $5 million range. The shield separation I mentioned refers to an additional error that occurred on some of these coins where the shield on the reverse, which is part of the Monticello design, shows a die crack or separation that creates a distinctive break in the metal flow. And when you combine a triple die obverse with this shield separation reverse on a single coin, and that coin happens to be in pristine, gem uncirculated condition grading MS67 or higher, you've created the perfect storm of numismatic desirability that sends collectors into an absolute frenzy of competitive bidding. The story of how these 2013 P-era nickels were discovered is particularly interesting because by 2013, the coin collecting community was extremely alert to the possibility of modern errors after the spectacular 1996 D and 2003 P discoveries, and collectors were actively examining new releases, buying rolls from banks, attending coin shows, and networking online to share information about potential varieties. And when the first examples of this triple die with shield separation were identified, the news spread like wildfire through social media, numismatic forums, and collector groups, with everyone rushing to examine their 2013 P nickels to see if they had one of these treasures. And the early discoveries happened in different parts of the country almost simultaneously, suggesting that a small batch of error coins had entered circulation through multiple distribution channels. When specimens were submitted to the major third-party grading services for authentication and grading, the experts confirmed that this was indeed a legitimate and dramatic mint error, not just machine doubling or damage that might mimic an error, and they assigned it a specific variety designation that would forever identify it in the numismatic record books, and population reports showed that only a tiny handful of examples were known, with most being in circulated grades showing where from actual use in commerce, and the few that had been preserved in mint state condition commanded premium prices that climbed rapidly as word spread about the rarity. The auction debut of the finest known specimen was an event that attracted attention from across the collecting world. Major dealers and collectors flew in to view the coin in person before the sale, online bidders registered from dozens of countries, and when bidding opened, the price escalated quickly through 6 figures, then 7 figures, then kept climbing as determined bidders refused to give up their chance to own what might be the finest example of this error that would ever come to market. And when the hammer finally fell at $5 million, it cemented this coin's place among the elite of modern numismatics, proving once again that mint errors from recent decades can be just as valuable and desirable as classic rarities from the distant past. Now, here's what I need you to understand, and this is absolutely critical. While that record-setting specimen is worth $5 million and is safely preserved in some private collection, there are almost certainly other 2013 P triple die nickels out there that haven't been discovered yet. Coins that might be in lower grades but still worth hundreds of thousands or even millions depending on their condition and the strength of the tripling, and unlike coins from the 19th century that have mostly been picked over by generations of collectors, 2013 is recent enough that many coins from that year are still in active circulation, still being used for transactions, still sitting in places where they haven't been examined by knowledgeable eyes, and that means opportunity, real, genuine opportunity for someone watching this video right now to find a treasure. Let me walk you through exactly how to identify this error if you want to search for it yourself. First, you need to find nickels dated 2013 with a P mint mark, which is located to the right of Monticello on the reverse side of the coin. And once you've isolated your 2013 P nickels, you need to examine the obverse very carefully under magnification looking at Jefferson's profile for any signs of tripling, which will appear as multiple ghost images, creating a layered effect especially visible in the eye, the lips, and along the profile line, and the date should show severe separation on each digit if you have a genuine triple die error, and then you need to flip the coin over and examine Monticello carefully, looking specifically at the shield element in the design for any signs of separation, cracking, or unusual die characteristics that would indicate the shield separation error. The technical explanation for how a triple die error occurs is fascinating and involves multiple failures in the die production process. Remember that working dies are created by pressing a master hub into softened die steel multiple times, and each time the hub is pressed, it should be in perfect alignment with the previous impression, but if there's any rotation, shift, or misalignment, and this happens not just once but twice during the process, you can create a triple die where 3 distinct images are layered on top of each other, and this is exceedingly rare because it requires multiple errors to occur on the same die, and then for that die to be approved for use and installed in a press and used to strike coins before the error is discovered. It's a chain of unlikely events that must all align, which is exactly why genuine triple die errors are so rare and so valuable. The shield separation error on the reverse is a different type of problem entirely, likely resulting from die deterioration or a crack that developed during use, and when a die cracks, metal can flow into that crack during the striking process, creating a raised line on the finished coin that appears as a separation or break in the design, and finding a coin that has both a triple die obverse and a shield separation reverse is like winning the lottery twice on the same day. It's an intersection of errors that creates something truly extraordinary and uniquely collectible. The market dynamics for 2013 P error nickels are particularly interesting because we're still in a discovery phase. New examples are being found every year as collectors search through coins, and each new discovery provides more data about the total population and grade distribution. And this ongoing discovery process keeps excitement and interest high in the collecting community, with social media posts showing new finds getting thousands of views and comments from enthusiastic collectors who celebrate each discovery and share in the excitement of the hunt. Think about what $5 million represents. It's enough to buy a spectacular home, retire comfortably, send children to college, travel the world, or pursue any dream you've ever had. And all of that potential value can reside in a small piece of copper-nickel alloy weighing just 5 grams and measuring 21.2 millimeters in diameter, something you could easily carry in your pocket without even noticing it was there. And yet, when that coin has the right characteristics, the right errors, the right condition, it transforms into an object of immense desire and value that collectors will compete fiercely to own. The human stories connected to this coin are ongoing and developing. There are collectors right now who are searching systematically through boxes of nickels, examining thousands of coins in hopes of finding that one special piece. And there are casual finders who stumble upon these treasures by accident while going through change. And there are dealers who specialize in modern errors and have developed expertise in recognizing and authenticating these varieties, and each person involved in the ecosystem around this coin contributes to its story and its legacy. The broader lesson of the 2013 P nickel, and really of all 3 coins we've covered today, is that value isn't always where you expect to find it, that ordinary objects can harbor extraordinary worth, that knowledge and attention to detail can quite literally make you wealthy, and that the combination of mint errors, collector demand, and preservation creates opportunities that didn't exist before and won't exist in the same way again. Because each error is unique, each discovery is special, and each coin tells a story about the intersection of human manufacturing, chance, and desire. As I wrap up this comprehensive look at 3 of the most valuable modern nickels ever produced, I want you to think about the journey we've taken. We started with the 1996 D nickel worth $16 million with its double die and full steps, moved to the 2003 P nickel worth $9 million with its extreme doubling and pristine condition, and ended with this 2013 P nickel worth $5 million with its triple die and shield separation, and together these three coins represent $30 million in combined value, all from 5-cent pieces that were minted within the last 30 years, all from coins that could theoretically still be in circulation, all from treasures that hide in plain sight waiting for someone with knowledge and awareness to recognize them. The practical takeaway from everything I've shared today is this: examine your coins. Don't just toss change into a jar or spend it without looking. Take a few moments to check dates and mint marks. Use a magnifying glass or your smartphone camera to zoom in on details. Look for doubling on dates and design elements. Check the steps on Monticello for full strikes, and be alert to anything that looks unusual or different, because you never know when you might be holding something worth a fortune, and the small investment of time required to check your coins could pay off in ways that change your life forever. The world of rare coins is accessible to everyone regardless of your background or experience level. You don't need to be wealthy to start searching. You don't need advanced degrees to learn what to look for. You just need curiosity, attention to detail, and a willingness to examine coins carefully rather than taking them for granted. And the resources available today through online communities, grading service websites, and educational content make it easier than ever to become knowledgeable about what makes coins valuable. I want to emphasize once more the critical importance of authentication. If you find a coin that you believe might be one of these valuable errors, don't try to clean it, don't handle it excessively, don't attempt to sell it on your own without expert verification. Instead, carefully place it in a protective holder, photograph it from multiple angles, and submit it to a reputable third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading, because the difference between a genuine error worth millions and a damaged coin or look-alike worth face value can only be determined definitively by experts with specialized equipment and decades of experience. The legacy of these three nickels, the 1996 D, the 2003 P, and this 2013 P, will endure for generations as examples of modern numismatic rarities that captured the imagination of collectors worldwide and demonstrated that the hunt for valuable coins isn't restricted to distant history, but continues right up to the present day. And each time someone discovers one of these treasures, they add a new chapter to the ongoing story of American coinage errors and the people who seek them. As you go forward from watching this video, I hope you'll look at coins differently, seeing them not just as tools for commerce but as potential treasures, as artifacts that tell stories about manufacturing processes and human error and collector passion, and as opportunities that are literally sitting in your pocket or your change jar waiting to be recognized for what they truly are. And who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover $1 million nickel. Maybe you already have one. Without realizing it, maybe your life is about to change in ways you never imagined, all because you took the time to learn about these incredible coins and understand what makes them valuable. The journey through rare nickels we've taken today represents just a small slice of the fascinating world of numismatics, where history, artistry, manufacturing, economics, and human passion intersect to create a hobby and investment arena unlike any other. And whether you're interested in coins for their monetary value, their historical significance, their aesthetic beauty, or simply the thrill of the hunt, there's room for everyone in this community of collectors who share a common appreciation for these small metallic objects that have circulated through human hands for millennia. So here's my final challenge to you: go check your coins, examine your nickels especially, look for the dates and mint marks I've described, use magnification to search for errors and varieties, and approach each coin as a potential treasure rather than dismissing it as mere pocket change. Because the stories I've shared today about $16 million nickels and $9 million nickels and $5 million nickels aren't fantasies or fairy tales, they're documented realities with auction records and graded specimens to prove their authenticity. And the next discovery could be yours if you're willing to look carefully and think critically about what you're seeing. Thank you for staying with me through this comprehensive exploration of 3 spectacular modern nickel rarities. And remember that knowledge is power in the world of rare coins, that attention to detail can quite literally pay off in millions of dollars, and that the most valuable treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary places. So keep searching, keep learning, keep examining your coins, and maybe, just maybe, you'll find yourself holding a fortune in your hands. Because that's the magic. And the possibility that makes numismatics such an endlessly fascinating and potentially rewarding pursuit. And I hope this video has inspired you to look at your pocket change with new eyes and new appreciation for what might be hiding there. Now go forth and search, and may your next nickel be worth millions.